welcome to Traditional Chinese Medicine Posture Clinic here for the YTT Yin Yoga 40-hour yoga certified program with yours truly, Petroyama, the Wild Lama, and my beautiful brother and healer, Constantine, all the way from Alabama, to be with you live, to share with you the secrets of the meridians and the organs through traditional Chinese medicine. So we're going to be going through the complete guide of Yin Yoga by Bernie Clark as we study in our program. We're going to go through 26 of the postures, and Constantine and I are going to have a very candid, casual conversation to best teach and share the knowledge of this beautiful practice we call Yin, to give you all of what you need to become successful practitioners, to inspire and aspire your practice both on and off the mat.
Thank you, Alex.
Aho!
Thank you, brother. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. And I've been so looking forward to this moment in time.
Yes, God.
It's my absolute pleasure to share knowledge and the way to find balance and true equilibrium in a world where it seems like we are moving away from our human nature. Yes.
And that's what I find so important about the Yin Yoga. It really connects us to our being. So we're human beings. So when you say that moving away from the human, it's like we're actually entering more into the humanness and less into the beingness.
Absolutely.
And that's why I really think, all the conversations that we've had and we're going to continue to have, this is going to be the first of many videos and conversations between Constantine and I. And I just want to start with maybe a little bit of what you prepared for today's practice.
Yes.
For the students of the Yin Yoga program. Costa is also a graduate of the program.
Yes.
And he's going to be sharing this on the US side, our neighbors to the south. So it's getting more and more international. And then hopefully through a year of training and teaching, we're going to be launching a retreat in Greece. So it'll be wonderful, a yearly annual retreat where we'll be doing yoga and traditional Chinese medicine and in our land of our birthright.
Yes.
And the right of birth to share with
the
others.
Fatherland.
Yes.
So we share that Greek spirit. Interestingly enough, we're both in the Eastern arts. It's very interesting. We're trying to, East meets the West. So yes, I am a TCM practitioner. I'm an acupuncturist, and I've very much delved into the Taoist practices because that's what resonated with my spirit. And so what I have prepared today is a couple questions first. Why Yin Yoga training? Why is it important to have a Yin practice? What does it mean? So I just want to go quickly, just real quick, into why Yin, if it's not apparent already. Why it is important to have a Yin Yoga practice. I'd like to go over with it together.
Absolutely.
So there's a foundational idea of Yin and Yang, which basically means polarity. And it's basically all nature operates through this foundational understanding of Yin and Yang. And I just want to go into what Yin actually means. The true definition of Yin is simply the shadow part of the mountain. And Yang is considered the sunny part. So in terms of the body, the physical body itself is considered the Yin, meaning the earthly aspect. And the spirit that inhabits this body is considered the Yang. So the most Yin thing a person can do is be in complete stillness, because that grounds the spirit into this physical body. So the most Yin thing you could do technically is sleeping, but that is in an unconscious or subconscious way of activating the Yin. So what we are aiming to do is bring consciousness to that Yin practice, to embodying this physical Yin body with our Yang spirit. So I just want to break down a couple different parts. So what is yang? Yang is action. Yang is doing. Yang is planning. So our society is very much like this. It's all about action. We value um, very much in the direction of yang energy. So the society value, that's why we value caffeine so much. We value nicotine so much. We value, planning, organization. These are very masculine qualities or yang qualities. And so this is why it's important to achieve balance. We have to have a yin practice. Um, who was it that said that if we are adjusted to a profoundly sick society, it is no measure of health?
Beautiful.
I believe it was Krishnamurti.
Beautiful.
And I really, truly agree with this. So this is the reason why we're doing what we're doing, because health cannot be achieved without balance.
And health means whole.
Exactly. So yes, because society is structured in this way, there's a strong emphasis on the yang, action, planning, executing. So this is activating the sympathetic aspect of the nervous system. And the human body, we have many aspects. We have the peripheral nervous system is separated into the sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic aspect is basically the fight or flight aspect. And so this is what our society values. Go, 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 right? So this creates a tension. The sympathetic activation tightens up the muscles, it tightens up the sinews, it tightens up even the blood vessels. And this doesn't allow the qi and blood to flow freely. And so this creates blockages in the channels, creates blockages in the body. So this is why we need to have a strong yin practice. So what happens when we go deep into a stretch? Actively stretching the body, creating targeted tension, and breathing deeply into that tension will naturally lead the body into a relaxation. And this happens because we are activating the parasympathetic or the yin aspect of the nervous system, which stimulates a feedback system. This process creates neurochemicals like dopamine, which generate feelings of euphoria and promote relaxation in the body. When the body is relaxed, the blood vessels actually open up, the blood flows more freely, and tension melts away. Tension melts away. So
to summarize, we have an autonomic nervous system. It's split into two parts, basically yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
We just call one sympathetic, and that's fight, flight, freeze.
Exactly.
And then the other one, parasympathetic, which is basically to rest, to digest, to integrate, for sleep, for stillness. And these two work in tandem with each other.
Precisely. So because we are simply adapting to the energy of society that is very young, this has actually led to a lot of the problems that we see with autonomic nervous system issues. Like people can't sleep, people have anxiety, people have a million different problems, and they don't really know why. It is simply because we're moving out of this balance. So this is all to say, why is it important to have a yin practice?
Right.
Yeah.
So this is what really differentiates Yin Yoga from other types of yoga like Ashtanga and Hatha and different other faster forms of yoga. Sometimes my teacher, Vishwaketu, used to call it jump and pump yoga. It's because this one is specifically stimulating the parasympathetic system.
Precisely.
Where the other one's kind of overrunning the sympathetic to get to parasympathetic. You're exhausted at the end. Exactly. So it's just like wash.
Well, the sympathetic activation, there's only one on button. There's no way to turn off the sympathetic through the sympathetic. You need to activate the parasympathetic in order to interrupt that conversation between the peripheral and central nervous system. Because it's almost like a conversation. What we see happening is people basically are have adrenal fatigue. Because it's just pressing that adrenaline button over and over, go, 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 until there's just nothing left in the system. Yeah. So the only way to interrupt that conversation is to activate the parasympathetic. Yeah. Yeah, so this is actually going to lead to a greater sense of balance and what we call health.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, so we're going to get started. Again, a lot of you have had your training in the Yin Yoga already, so you might be catching this video at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, but this is information that you can take far beyond your practice and into the practical, into your own lives. So I'm going to go through our manual here, our teaching manual by Bernie Clark. We're going to start with Anahatasana, melting heart. And I'll go through the 26. Costa will speak candidly. I might speak a little bit as well, just to kind of create some more conversation. But we're going to try and give you as much as we can during this time. We've devoted 2 to 3 hours for this video. We'll see how long it goes. But there are 26 postures to get to. We won't be doing them for the 3 to 5 minutes. We're just going to do this more as a posture clinic so that we can get through it. But if you have any questions, I will leave Costa's information below. He does take professional phone calls and coaching calls. So if this is something you're interested, you can access him. All of his information will be below, as will his rates. And then also with me too, I'm going to do this same series from the yoga context. So this is an ongoing dissertation, exploration, discovery, iteration. But this is not something that's one and done. Costa and I will probably revisit this once a year and build off this content year by year as we get more proficient at it.
Because there's just so much to go into with regard to a DCM perspective. That's why I'm here, is to express, within each posture, which meridians are opening up, what are we activating here?
Absolutely.
And also I'm just going to briefly mention the emotional components of which organ systems the meridians are affecting, and so on.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to get started. Again, the camera stays where it is. We're going to activate ourselves around sort of the view. So get yourself nice and comfortable. We are at page 54 on Anahatasana. I'll try and cue it as much as possible. As I always encourage, write in your books. These books are your Bibles. And this is where the word is made flesh, right? This is where we take it. This is our knowledge of experience. And as you're going to see today, a lot of experience of that knowledge from both of us. So we're going to get started. Again, I'm not going to teach the posture. I'm just going to go into it. And then Costa's going to do his thing. He's going to just feel it out intuitively and tell you what's going on. So I'm going into Anahatasana. My hips are stacked over my knees. My armpits are moving toward the ground. This is the real secret of this posture. Forward to the floor. Some people who are really flexible can come into full extension. But here it is, Costa, so you can start whenever you're ready.
So what we see here is we're opening up the chest, the arms, the shoulders. So this is activating the heart meridian, the small intestine meridian, and this is related to our emotional state. This is related to our sleep as well. So this would be a great posture, say, if you are feeling emotionally charged, if you didn't have a good night's rest. This would be a beautiful way to sort of engage the heart meridian and the small intestine meridian, which are actually connected. So this is in Chinese medicine, they call the heart the Shen, and this is the seat of the spirit. So this is a beautiful, beautiful way to activate the Shen and the heart. This is the fire element, and this will actually activate joy in our heart. There is an excess of joy would be mania. So if you're feeling some mania, this would also bring that into balance. But yes, this is a beautiful posture to open up this bottom aspect here. The heart channel runs from the armpit, down the arm, down to the pinky.
Do you mind just standing up and just showing them, Costa, just like giving them an actual visual?
So it would be from the pinky here all the way into the armpit. And opening up the chest actually opens up the Ren meridian, which runs down the middle of the front of the body, which is the most yin aspect of as far as meridians go. And the opposite would be the most yang meridian is on the back. And there's reasons for that, but we won't go into that right now.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother. All right, one and done. So Costa will stand up, show, demonstrate as much as he can. That'll be great. And we'll just keep it flowing. So now we have ankle stretch. It's a beautiful posture as well. So I'm going to get nice and situated again in the center. All right, Master Casa. So I lean back, stretch my ankles, as you can see, and I lift up.
Yes. So here we have a stretch that's activating a whole lot of meridians. The fact that you're laying on your feet, here we have the stomach, spleen meridians, and even the kidneys. You're actually stretching even the gallbladder meridian. So this is great for anxiety. This is great for digestion. This is great for lower back pain, knee pain. So from an emotional perspective, the spleen is related to anxiety. So this would help to relieve some anxiety. The kidney is related to fear. So this would help relieve fear, right? And yes, let me see this. You're actually activating a whole lot of meridians, including the gallbladder. So the gallbladder meridian, which runs down the side, they call it the seam of the body because it runs down the side of the body all the way up to the side here. So that is related to confidence. That is related to having decisiveness. Which we see a lot of people have problems with these
And
days.
those who lack a gallbladder lack that decisive action.
Exactly.
We've had that conversation quite a bit because a lot of women end up having that surgery where they have that gallbladder surgery.
So in this variations, if you were to stretch your arms out back like this would be a great chest opener. So again, we're activating the Ren meridian here down the middle, which is the most yin aspect of the meridians. So opening up the lung channel, which starts here, which relieves depression and fear. And that runs all the way down to the index and the thumb. So this is a beautiful posture for the stomach and spleen mainly. But like I said, because you're sitting on your feet, there's so many meridians and nerve endings in the feet. So this would be great for reducing inflammation.
Absolutely.
Actually. Because on the extremities, the channels, they become like bottlenecks. So the bottlenecks of the energy is that's why we feel when we needle the fingers or the toes, you feel it. There's a stronger response. So this is draining heat from the body, draining inflammation. So if you find yourself being inflamed, you wake up, you're red, or you had some alcohol the night before or something like this, this would be a great posture to sort of cool the body.
Beautiful, brother. And this is a really good one. Again, it takes a while to get to 3 minutes in ankle stretch, but over time, this is, it takes practice. And of course, there's lots of modifications in your book. Arnie Clark's new updated version did a really good job. So this is Banana Asana. I'm going to get into that one now. Lean back. You know what? I'm just going to tilt this camera just a little bit because we're not standing as much as we thought we were going to. Get us a little bit more floor room here. All right, so perfect. So I'm going to start moving over to the left side.
Yes.
As I like to stimulate first the ascending colon, then the descending colon.
Yes. So here the main stretch that you're likely feeling is again on the seam of the body. So that is related to the gallbladder specifically, which is connected to the element of wood, which is also the liver is part of. And this is related to the emotion of anger, of stress, right? So if I were to imagine what you might be feeling right now is a release of anger. It's also related to impatience, right? So mainly the gallbladder is being stretched here. It may stimulate the urinary bladder, which runs down the erector muscles on the side of the spine. But mainly the gallbladder and also the heart and lung. Like I mentioned previously, the heart is from the armpit right here, running down to the pinky. And the lung is on the inner aspect of the shoulder. And that would release depression and fear.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Good. And I did that for demonstration purposes. Of course, my left side would be this side, but you wouldn't be able to see it. So just making that mental cue for the keeners who were like, he said left, but did right. So not to worry there, crew. We're learning how to access this new way of educational platform, which is online. Both Casa and I really understand the importance of at-home education, because it's not always accessible to get out to the yoga studios. And as we've learned since after COVID, it's been a really hard go for yoga studios to stay open and remain open. So having this ability to do things online is really, really important. He has a very successful clinic in Alabama. So it's a real honor to have him here in Toronto. And hopefully, we can access a larger community where we can share our time together, especially on that retreat in Greece. That's going to be great. So, to be announced. All right, so we have bridge pose coming up next. This is page 63. So we're going to get into the bridge pose. Just get on the mat.
So here we have the primary targeted areas is the sacrum and the low back. That is an extension. Okay, so in this case, we are stimulating the urinary bladder meridian, which is mainly like it actually, because we're accessing the spine. The lower back is where the nerve endings of the kidney emerge at L2, L3. And so the kidney, it actually is related to fear. And so the kidney also rules primordial essence. So we only have a certain amount of kidney essence. In TCM, they call it Jing Qi. And so this would be really good for lower back pain, for knee pain, and also in addition to that, we are activating the spleen, stomach, heart, and lung meridians. So this is a posture of some tension in the lower back, but also surrender. So this is a key point. To allow surrender in this position. And again, to just go over it, the Ren channel runs down the middle here, down the front, and that is the most yin meridian on the body.
So would that be said, so the most yang would be on the backside of the body?
That's right. And the reason for that is because originally our evolution, it's the yang side of the body because we were on all fours. So the sun actually hit the back. Right? So that is the reason.
And there's the shadow.
Exactly. And the shadow, yin.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and again, I think at this point, it's a good stopping point because, again, we don't want to just machine gun through the postures. Let's talk about the elements. There's 5 elements in traditional Chinese medicine.
Yes.
And, it always comes, every time I ask a TCM practitioner, I always get a different answer. It's kind of like when you ask a personal trainer, what is the core? You always seem to get a different answer. So I would love to know, just a great stopping point, just to talk about the philosophy. What is the philosophy of the 5 elements and why is it so important in traditional Chinese medicine?
Right. So the way I understand it, first, the foundational knowledge, like I mentioned in the beginning, is yin and yang. And then from that, we have the 5 element breakdown. The 5 elements are, we have fire right at the top, and that is the heart. The heart is the seat of the soul. So that's where it all starts. In TCM terms, that is considered the emperor. So the emperor lives in the heart and he dictates to the rest of the organs. So the connection is, we look at nature on the outside and there's seasons. And one element balances the other. One element generates the other and controls the other. So for example, the kidneys is water. And the water controls the heart fire, right? And then so that is a controlling part of the cycle. And then we have the heart is fire that generates earth. So you might think, okay, you have a fire, and then after the fire you see ashes, right? So that is earth. And there's basically, they call it the Ka cycle, and there's a controlling part of one element controlling the other. And then there is a generating part. So one element generating the other. Like, for example, we have fire is generated by wood. Wood is liver and gallbladder. So that is green. Then each element is associated with an organ system, and each element is associated with an emotion, with a flavor, a color. And so the whole point, just to not go too deeply into it, is to understand that the outside nature, on the outside, the seasons, the way nature works, is a reflection of the inside. And so we take heed from what we see on the outside to understand the inside. That's why it is so key. I believe understanding the 5-element system is a key to understanding our human nature and how we fit into this whole picture of Earth and the nature of, like, what is our human nature truly. And how to balance the internal organs in order to, so to speak, hack our way back to our human nature.
The biohacking of beingness.
Exactly.
I really like that expression, because we are human, but we have this being. We're all connected by being. So really, the yin has always really evoked this sense of beingness.
Absolutely. So here's a major key is trusting in the wisdom of the body. And that is to say that we are thinking with our heart rather than with our mind, right? So I think it's very natural, because of our most recent evolution being in the prefrontal cortex, which is all about solving problems. Even when we've solved all the problems in our life, our mind, our brain will actually create problems for us to solve, which creates more anxiety, which leaves us unfulfilled, which leaves us unbalanced. Okay, so it's actually a double-edged sword, how powerful our minds are. In fact, they are a prison sometimes. So this enter the Yin Yoga practice, right? So how do we get out of our head? Well, we get into our body and we surrender to the innate intelligence that is within us since our birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
All
right. Hey, we keep rolling.
Yes.
Doing good. All right. So we are at now butterfly, a favorite, aka cobbler pose. So we're gonna get into that. I'm gonna face it from the front. Good, nice and easy.
Yes. So okay, the butterfly pose. It's a beautiful pose. Here we're looking at stimulating the gallbladder meridians and sensation to the inner knees. You're activating the liver and the kidney, as well as the back, the bladder meridian. So key point, the bladder meridian, at every spinal segment, there are different nerve endings that emerge, which connect to different organ systems. So stretching, it's so important to stretch the spine out and to open up, create space between each of the spinal columns. So here, the outside of the hips, here we are stimulating the gallbladder meridian, which is connected to the liver meridian as well. And this is the wood element. And this is related to the emotion of anger, irritability, impatience. So if you're feeling any of these emotions, this would be a great pose to get into, as well as the kidney meridians. The kidney meridian, it runs on the inside here, up, and it's related to the lower back, the knees, and to the emotion of fear and the element of water. Yeah, there's so much we could go into here.
Well, this is where we have our master class. So the Yin Yoga teacher training program is a 40-hour Yoga Alliance certified continuing education. I think what we're also going to be offering in the next little while, as Costa keeps mentioning it, once we get this set up, we're going to do a level 2.
So last point here, we're opening up the groin area. And so the liver meridian actually is on the top here because it's considered we're activating the sinew channel, which it's difficult to go into, but there's different organizations of channels. So we have the chi flowing through the regular channel, and then we also are searching the sinew channel. So the sinew channel starts here and it wraps around the groin and then rises up to the side of the rib cage here. So a lot of times, if you have liver chi stagnation, it will settle on the side of the ribs. So if a person has some tension or some pain on the side of the ribs, this is a liver gallbladder tension. This means the chi isn't flowing. So the point that I want to get across here is that we want the chi and the blood to flow from top to bottom, side to side, and just in a continuous fashion.
Yep.
So when there's a stagnation of that qi, it manifests as pain. It manifests as physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain. The brain actually registers these types of pain the same way.
Yeah, that's why we do the cupping and the needling to
Absolutely.
stimulate that energy. Would you ever stimulate someone in the posture if you knew they were going to be in the posture, or they could hold the posture for 5 to 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever consider needling or cupping while in the posture?
Well, I think I would do some manual work instead of needling, not while in the posture. In the posture, it's better to just do acupressure. Yeah.
So like the Theraguns or
Theragun, or just say, for example, liver 3 is located right here. You feel this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strong point.
Yeah.
So
So this is something we could teach.
This is absolutely
could be
something
level
we could
2.
teach. Yeah, so you could massage this point in between the big toe and the second toe, and just find where there's a little notch. The body is like a map, and it gives us little landmarks. So there's a little landmark right in between.
Oh
right?
yeah!
You feel that right there?
Oh yeah! All right, we'll get ready for level 2. That's what'd you call that?
It's acupressure.
Acupressure.
Yeah,
acupressure.
And we can teach
Manual pressure points.
The whole point of this is to help people understand these systems that are actually ancient systems. So it's our birthright to understand these systems, so we can heal ourselves, so we can take responsibility for our own health.
That's right.
Right? Teach a man how to fish. I don't want a person to have to come to me every time they have a problem.
That's right.
I want them to know, okay, here's something I can do, to bring my body back into balance.
That's right. So then another thing that, I've really enjoyed with our conversations is that the body is what is the true healer. Both Costa in traditional Chinese medicine and me in yoga, we're helpers, right? We're not actually healing you. We're helping you. So when we do sound healing, it's the sounds that are the healing. I am just the helper. I'm just the facilitator. And this is a conversation him and I have had, and we'll probably have it on one of the live streams in the future, just about that, because that really helps shift things. It takes the pressure off the helper, because to be a healer it's a lot of responsibility.
It is. And ultimately the healing is just the process that happens naturally. All we're doing is giving people a nudge in the right direction.
That's right.
And it's only because we have this knowledge of these systems that we're able to do that. But truly, it is the surrender and the trust that the body will heal itself. And knowing that we can trust our own physical body.
That's right.
To go through that healing process. I mean, I'll tell you, I treat up to 15 to 20 people a day sometimes. I just go in, I put in the needles, I leave. I come back, people feel better.
Yeah.
Did I heal them?
Right.
Did I? No. I just tell them, breathe slowly, breathe deeply.
Right.
That's it.
Stimulate that parasympathetic activity through breath
exactly
work.
Right.
That's
exactly
right. Lie
right.
down on a table, go into a yin posture.
Precisely.
Let's be here for more than 3 minutes.
Exactly.
So we can get into the myofascial levels.
So a lot of what I do actually in the clinic is put people with the use of needles into a parasympathetic activation,
which is basically a yin experience.
Precisely. Yes.
Amazing.
So the wisdom's already in us, and so all we need to do is trust that our body knows what to do.
Beautiful. All right, so now we're going into half butterfly. I'm just going to choose left side. I don't think we have to do both unless you want to comment on both, because again, it's neat to see why there are 26 postures. I think what I've been hearing from you is each of these postures so far have not repeated themselves. They've all been sort of slightly different for the energetic channels.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So when you're going into the stretch, I just want to ask you a question. When you're going into the stretch, you're breathing in, you're creating that tension, right? And then you're relaxing the muscle.
Yeah. So there's two ways of going about it. And again, this just comes with, I've been doing yin since I was 19 years old. So I'm 25. Sorry, yoga since 19 years old, but I found yin at 20, I think it was 25. So I'm 37 now, so 12 years of yin. The ideal breath that we want to bring to this practice is a transition from automatic breathing to natural breathing. So you don't want to actually have any stress in the breathing, because that would just be, oxymoronic to the practice. But the biohack of getting to that transition from automatic to natural breathing sometimes takes a little pranayama. So we activate ujjayi, we activate 3-part breathing, but again, still very much to depart from those and arrive at natural breathing. You don't really want to be doing breath work practice in Yin Yoga.
So with regard to stretching, say the muscle here, you're creating tension and then you're allowing relaxation.
So that's a great question. So I think for me, it's more to understand it rather than think from yang to yin.
Yes.
Think from like yin to more yin. So sometimes Yin Yoga, like for me, a really good teacher of Yin Yoga almost borders lines on a restorative class.
I see.
So supporting the legs, supporting everything, and just like falling into the posture. You don't even need to stretch your arm unless this feels super relaxed and you already have that flexibility. You would just go to here. Just it's almost like one of the best analogies I heard was, imagine, stretching meat, right? You're not going to go very far. Right. Because again, that myofascia is going to keep it nice and dense. But if you were to take that meat, hook it on a hook, and leave it for 12 hours, just like spacers in the ear, if you take time and space it out slowly, it's going to stretch. It's going to fall because gravity is doing the work.
Exactly.
So that's kind of my answer to your question. We don't want to really insert the yang. We want to keep it all yin.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. So here, what we're doing is we're focusing on the tension in the hamstring.
That's right.
Okay. So this is the back of the leg. This goes into the category of the bladder meridian. So this is connected to, like we were saying earlier, to the kidney. And also we're activating the gallbladder meridian. So the side of the leg, the seam, and as well as the spleen meridian, right? The spleen. So it runs from the inside of the toe all the way up to the groin. We're activating the outside of the leg, which is the seam, that's the gallbladder, and the back of the leg, which is connected to the urinary bladder. So this is a beautiful posture. And if you were to stretch the hand overhead, here we would activate the, quite a few meridians, but mainly the heart, in the armpit here, the lung, and the small intestine from the back aspect, as well as, those are the main ones.
And would that be different if I was to go from left side to right side?
No. Something to go into here. The right side is considered the yang aspect of the body. And so if you have
which is the same in traditional in yoga studies as well.
Okay, beautiful.
As well. Kundalini studies.
There's so many overlaps. Yeah. So the right side of the body is considered the yang aspect. So if you have a pain or an ache or something manifest on the right side, that is more acute. But sometimes you see clients that they have a lot of issues only on the left. These are things that take a long time to manifest. It's not something that just happens. So rule of thumb, things that take a long time to manifest take a longer time to heal. You need more time. So it's easier if you have issues on the right side to heal them quickly than it is on the left side.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very
the left and the right. So in that sense, like we do want to do balancing, do the same posture on the left as you do on the right.
But it takes much longer to heal for the physical body to heal the right side than the left side. Is that because we're more right? The left side from the right, which is the feminine.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful. Which is also the yin side?
That's right.
Right. So it'd be front body, left side, and then the yang would be back body, right side.
That's right.
Very cool.
That's right.
And that's the moving of the forces, right? From vertical and then also
so you want the energy to flow from right to left, from left to right, from back to front, from front to back, from top to bottom, from bottom to top. And a lot of times what we see is people might have a stagnation in just one part of the body.
Right.
Maybe they've been doing too much caffeine and nicotine. It's like too much in the yang. So then they might have like liver qi stagnation in the rib side. They might have a right knee pain.
Yeah.
They might have some yang type issues that will manifest on the right side.
And that stagnation is like congestion for your nose, right? It's like if your nose is blocked, it's like
actually
that. That's the way I like to always
fair.
imagine it. Like it's like, oh, well, what's the problem with stagnation? It's like, well, what's the problem with your nose being blocked?
Well, stagnation of qi will manifest as a dull, achy pain.
Got it.
Stagnation, which will lead to stagnation of blood.
Right.
And that will manifest more as a sharp stabbing pain.
Right.
But first, you will see the stagnation of chi or energy. Okay, so if you see sometimes, it's much easier. Let me go into this real quick. The relationship between chi and blood.
Okay.
Okay, so there's always a yin and yang relationship. They say that the blood is the yin, just like the body is the yin and the spirit is the yang. The blood is the yin, and it houses the chi,
Which is the yang.
which is the yang.
And the spirit.
Exactly. So the only thing that's keeping the body upright is the spirit, is the yang, but it needs a house, right? So
Needs a home.
Exactly. So the body is the home of the spirit. The chi is the home of, the blood is the home of the chi.
And the chi guides.
The chi moves the blood. It's not, in TCM terms, it's not actually the heart that moves the blood, because the pump is too small, actually, let's be real. The pump could never actually pump through all the blood vessels. If you've done the anatomy that I've done and you've done, you understand that this little pump cannot possibly move all this blood through all these tiny capillaries and tiny.
Well, I heard that if you were to take all the veins of our circulatory system, would wrap the earth 3 times.
Exactly. So it's a no-brainer. How is the blood moving? Well, TCM tells us, 5,000-10,000 year old wisdom tells us it's actually the chi that's moving the blood. So there's always this yin and yang relationship to consider. So yeah, I think that's a beautiful point to drive home.
Thank you.
But yeah, let's move forward.
Let's be guided by our spirits.
Yes, exactly.
By our yang. All right, cat pulling its tail. This is going to take a little bit of creativity on my part, one of my favorite postures. So we'll get into it nice and easy. All right.
So yeah, here we're creating a lot of tension in the inner aspect of the thigh. And so that is the spleen meridian, the stomach meridian. Again, to go over it, this is really good for anxiety, overthinking, pensiveness. This is the earth element. So spleen and stomach are a pair. And so this would be great for indigestion. Amazingly enough, this also is stimulating the kidney, bladder meridian, and gallbladder through the twisting action. Again, the gallbladder meridian is the seam of the body running on the outside here, and that is the emotion is anger, irritability. That is to settle these emotions. But yeah, that is the short end.
Beautiful. And again, it would be the same if I was to reverse it too as well.
That's right. It would.
Perfect. That's a favorite. It's a tough one for new teachers to cue. That's a good one. All right, caterpillar, which is basically forward fold. There's lots of modifications for this one. We're just going to take a look at it just at the basics. There you go, my brother.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. So there's quite a lot being activated here. In the book, it says we are activating the urinary bladder, which runs about 1.5 inches lateral to the main aspect of the spine. That would be your erector muscles. So this is activating all the organs. So like I said earlier, there's nerve endings that emerge at every segment here, which are connected to the actual organs themselves, not just the meridians. Now, in addition to that, we're activating what they call the governing vessel, which runs down the middle of the spine. This in TCM, they call it the dew. So the dew is the governing vessel. So that is to say that the whole body is taking commands from the governing vessel, which is the most yang. So this is the spine, opening up the spine. Mainly here, tell me if I'm wrong, but you're activating the lower back. Right.
Absolutely.
Here. So yeah, in the book, that's why it says
because we're moving from extension into flexion of the lumbar spine. So moving it from a natural backward bend to a forward fold. So I'm actually like Stegosaurus rexing my spinal columns outward.
Right. So if you have the book on page 79, it says sensations to the low back may stimulate the kidney line meridian. So this is a little bit misleading. I think what it means to say is that we're activating the lumbar, L2, L3, which is where the kidney nerve ending emerges, is right here. So that is what we're activating right here, is the low back. So this would be really good for urinary incontinence, for example. This would be really good for fear. This would be really good for having a sense of uncertainty, you know. So yeah, breathing into this posture would create a sense of certainty. It would create a sense of holding instead of like say urinary incontinence connected to the urinary bladder. But yeah, this is opening up bladder 23 specifically.
Beautiful. So I guess this is a good stopping point too, like we did about the elements. Tell me about the organs. Why is it so important? I know like the Egyptians that were very fixated on the organs, they just scoop out the brain, get rid of that. But they used to put the organs in canopic jars. Again, it seems like, again, that, you know, traditional Chinese medicine has put a major focus on the organs. You know, why is that?
Well, each organ, they associate a spirit to it, and it has a job. Like, for example, I said earlier that the heart is the emperor, right? That is the spirit of the emperor. So the emperor dictates to the rest of the organs. You know, in addition to that, you have the liver would be the general. So the general rules, make sure everything is moving smoothly in the body. So this is just small thought forms, it's just ways of understanding like the spirit of each organ. So for example, when the general is unhappy, you get irritability. That's why the emotion of the liver is anger, impatience, irritability, right? And so this is just a simple way of understanding, like there's two ways of looking at it. So the organs have the spirit, each one has their job, but also it has a connected meridian to it. Now, the energy of the meridian isn't always exactly connected to the energy of the organ itself. It gets a little bit complicated. So it you know, there's many layers and many depths. But one of the reasons the bladder meridian is so emphasized in the book, and it just keeps talking about, oh, you're activating the urinary bladder meridian. Well, that's because it runs down the entirety of your spine, down the back of the legs, and it ends on the outside aspect of the heel here, and down to the pinky. So this is connected to the actual organ itself. It's not just the meridians.
So is that why when we need to pee, we do the
separate.
pee-pee dance? We get all excited. Our whole body gets excited.
You could say that.
It's one of the strangest things, but it's, you know, out of all the things that the human body does, it's always funny when people need to pee, they start like super activating their bodies.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
And looking at children. You can learn a lot. You can learn a lot by looking at children.
You gotta go poop, it's a different dance. When you gotta go pee, it's like a full body.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the past, in you know, TCM, what we know today is actually a very westernized version of what actual traditional Chinese medicine was about. And if you want, I can go into a little bit of a why or a story. Yeah. So during the Cultural Revolution, Mao Zedong was actually getting rid of all things Chinese. He was getting rid of it. So traditional Chinese medicine actually fell in that category. So he was going to get rid of 10,000 years of wisdom and knowledge. However, his wife fell terribly ill. And so he decided to call Chinese medicine doctors from every corner of China, which all had different modalities. Like, for example, in one corner, it was important to use yang type modalities. So they used a lot of moxa or mugwort, which is something that they burn and they pass over the meridian. So that's comes from the mountains where it was really cold. So this was a very valuable healing modality there. And, you know, to use the moxibustion as part of TCM. And then there was another part where they used cupping, you know, where there was a lot of dampness, for example, in this part of the world in China. And so using cupping pulls the dampness from the body. So that was another part. And then acupuncture from a different part, right? Herbs from a different part. So Mao Zedong actually did us a great service in the sense, because he consolidated it. He consolidated it, and he said, if you can save my wife, I will westernize this and create one system that's going to be an umbrella term. We call it TCM.
Mhm.
You know.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So
That's a great history
I
from all
appreciate.
four corners.
So thank
to the
you,
center.
Mao Zedong's wife, for almost dying. Like, thank you. Like, you have no idea the service.
As fate would have it.
done. Yeah. So this is actually why we have this beautiful wisdom today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I-
Thank
I
you for
love
being
it.
a keeper of it.
Of course. I
Beautiful.
feel like it's a duty. It's a responsibility.
Totally.
Yeah.
I feel like this whole course is, passing of Polly Zink's knowledge, Bernie Clark's, Sarah Powers. Who else was the other one there? I'm forgetting his name. But anyways, I'll do him justice. I have his book. Actually, yeah, we'll get into the child's book. What was his name? Oh, let me get his book real quick. I can't say all their names and not honor all the teachers that I've had in the past. It just wouldn't be holy. Oh, Paul Grilly. Paul Grilly. He's another one. Fantastic. So yeah, thank you, Costa, for the segue. So that's another really good manual as well. Again, I can only choose one for the teacher training. And again, this one's really good as well, but this is more for a level 2 study. So this is probably the one we'll use. And of course, Sarah Powers has a wonderful as well. They all came around at the same time. But I really like Bernie Clark's. Bernie Clark did a great job. Those who have studied with Polly Zink know how just incredible the integration of the traditional Chinese medicine with the martial arts through the yoga. It's just an incredible tsunami of consciousness.
And it's amazing that they actually added the meridians and organs affected. So it shows that they he had a knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine. I wish it was a bit more extensive.
That's why I invited you. That's why I invited you, because it's always been this eluded part of my curriculum. Because again, you can't speak what you don't know, and that's the key. And for me, Costa is not just a knowledge; he's a knowledge of experience. So he's treated people for a long time. You treated me, and
it's going on 5 years.
Yeah. But your 5 years is another person's 50 years. You've done a lot of work within this life. You're fully devoted, and that's why I really feel that
it's a calling. It's not just a job.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And it's also not. I've always said it's not chronological. When you meet someone who is connected to the source, it doesn't matter what their age was. That's why in different times they did honor young avatars, and different people, because it wasn't chronological. So consciousness is not chronological. Yes, things get better with age. But there's also a beautiful youthful spirit that I've engaged in my own yoga practice, and it ebbs and flows. But it's always a constant upward direction. And we always, the humanness is what we have to learn, and then the beingness is what is already liberated and realized and unchanging.
So many layers.
So many layers. And again, I love this yin yang, this ping pong of what we're doing today, because it's just going to open us up to new inspirations. Because again, all knowledge can kind of get, there can be a sort of end to knowledge, and that's what we call Vedanta in yoga. But through experience, there is no end.
Absolutely.
You can be the one climbing the mountain to pick the mugwort. There's always another level that you could take it to. Yeah. Or you can be the one manufacturing the metal needles and making
True enough.
Tuning
into and ultimately we are just leading each other to the starting line.
That's right.
Because once we all, engage in these practices and engage in this knowledge, which is really wisdom of the ages that we're sharing in the present, this is only the beginning.
Yes.
This is only the beginning, and the practice is personal.
Yes.
And no two people will have the same practice.
Yes.
This is simply, thousands of years of gurus and gurujis pointing at one direction, and essentially we are all here to lead each other home.
Yes.
And I believe that home is the heart.
Yes.
The connection is, how, like I said in the beginning, how do we get out of our head? Well, it's not necessarily a top to bottom approach. It's a bottom to top.
That's right.
Right? Starting in the heart. Like, what do we all have in common, if not the rhythm of our heart?
That's right.
Beating.
That's where in yoga philosophy, it starts with Arjuna. This is the one I've been reading online recently, and it's Stephen Mitchell's version, one of my favorites. And, it just talks about duty.
The Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, the Bhagavad Gita that talks about duty, that, what does duty come from? It comes from one's heart, which is the changeless. So it's like, do your duty. Despite the many changes and what you might see or perceive as change, it's coming from that heart center. And so do your duty and do it without fear, do it without cowardice, do it without, dullness, ignorance, all the
Embody
things.
it.
Embody
Yeah.
it, be
Yeah.
it, and don't be afraid to live up to what we call love in the West,
Without
which is
comparing.
that's right, the unconditional, the infinite. So that's beautiful. So I'm going to get up on my feet now. We're going to go into dangle.
Okay.
We're smashing through this. So there you go, brother.
Thank you.
Put the holy text back.
Yes. So here we are stressing the spine, obviously. Flexion in the lumbar, the hamstrings, right? The cervical, upper thoracic spine, and more than any other, we are activating the urinary bladder, from the back and the legs. 1.5 inches from the spine. So urinary bladder runs all the way down to the legs, and also the dew, which he doesn't mention in the book, but the governing vessel. So this is a very simple posture. However, I think it has it's the most activating. Like just doing this, say, if you have 5 minutes in between work, can do wonders. It can really unlock the stagnant energy. Say if you've been sitting for a long time and there's stress in the lumbar, or if you've even been standing for a really long time, it decompresses the spine because gravity is always compressing the spine. So yeah, this is also activating the kidney line, but mainly it's through the lower back here, which isn't the actual kidney meridian. It is actually the bladder meridian that is a pair with the kidney.
And what about the draining? Because obviously this is the most
Yes.
yang posture in our yin sequence. What about all that circulation going to the head right now?
This is interesting too. Yeah. So the cerebrospinal fluid that is in the head, in the brain, it's always draining. It's always draining. We might not notice, but when you're doing this posture, sometimes people might get their ears blocked. They might get some drainage happening through the nose, and that is completely natural. It's actually really important to understand. Like my teachers would compare the body to a car, and they would say, why is it that there's so much CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, in the head? Like, why would God or Spirit create us this way? And then he said, okay, look at a car. The radiator of the car is the water, is the cooling. Where would you put that? Well, if you look at the body, if you stand, Alex, real quick, heat rises, right? Heat rises. So of course we would put water, or the radiator of the car, of the physical body, at the top. So it actually makes sense.
Absolutely.
You're like, oh, okay, heat rises to the top. Well, that's where we're going to put all this fluid.
This cooling.
And if you look at
coolant
anatomy, if you look at the brain, if you've had the opportunity to take some cadaver labs or anything like this, you will notice how the brain is actually encased in this interesting bag that is filled with CSF fluid that is constantly draining. And interestingly enough, the pressure of the CSF fluid in the brain has a lot to do with these awakened states. Whether it's through breath work, or say I think we've all heard of pressing the tongue onto the soft palate. Well, that's actually creating a pressure change in the brain, and it actually changes the way the cerebrospinal fluid flows. In addition to that, it's connecting the positive and negative. So we'll go into that. That's kind of a deeper conversation. But it's kind of emphasizing that we are electromagnetic beings. The Earth is electromagnetic. The only thing protecting the Earth from the sun, from the radiation, is the magnetosphere. So of course we have an aura. Of course we are also expressions of this, and connecting the tongue and connecting the mulaband together at the same time creates the positive and negative energy to flow more freely. So it all makes sense, and these were considered secrets in the ancient times.
That's right.
But now knowledge and information is free, and so we can use these practices.
That's right.
To really achieve a greater degree and level of health that maybe we didn't know was possible, because of course if nobody shows you, you won't know.
That's right.
Right. But only until we can try it and really engage in these experiences that will really see what it is for ourselves.
That's right.
Because no two people will have the same experience.
That's right.
That said, we all have the same physical body or a very similar physical body that works in very similar ways. Yes, constitution.
Yes. It's very interesting. That's where science always struggles with this whole notion of the subjective. We want, we have all these objective claims and reliability and validity. Reliability being, what can be measured, but it's so hard to measure this. Well, it's almost impossible. What is it like to be a bat? To imagine that would be it from an anthropomorphic perspective, right? So it's like, what is it to be a dolphin? That would be another anthropomorphic, like a human perspective of what it would be like to be a dolphin. So consciousness is so subjective, and that's why it's such a hard question. But yet, in these practices, we really honor the phenomenology of the generalizations of, well, there's so much subjectivity happening, and yet they're all leading to the same source, the same place. Right. So we can draw sort of a conclusion around, maybe meditation does work. Now science is catching up to it with EEGs and different ways of tracking the brain.
Yeah, of course meditation works. I mean, we've seen that within 20 minutes a day, like transcendental meditation has proven that 20 minutes a day for, I believe it's 6 weeks.
Yep.
Will actually shift the brain chemistry.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. And that's that stillness, that silence, that spaciousness that we seek in our practice. And if we're doing a yin practice on a daily basis, we're getting an hour.
And speaking of stillness, I think this is a beautiful segue.
Yeah.
Everything in the external world is moving. Everything looks still, like everything looks solid, but science confirms.
That's right.
There is nothing that is still in the universe.
That's right.
Right? So even down to the subatomic level, everything is actually oscillating.
That's right.
And vibrating.
That's right.
Even the electrons moving around protons and
That's
so on
right.
and so forth. So it is my opinion that the duty of the human being can be fulfilled by simply creating that stillness. Because if, like we started this, we said yin and yang.
Yep.
It's a foundational truth, polarity. So if everything is in constant movement, where is the stillness?
That's right.
Right? So the stillness can be achieved within the human body, within our mind, within our being. So that brings a great responsibility
Absolutely.
to create stillness. So it's not necessarily, I'm doing this for my ego. I'm doing this because it feels good. It does. It does.
Of course.
However, there's a deeper reason, I believe.
That's right. Well, Patanjali says it right at the beginning. The whole purpose of the yoga practice is to cease, to bring down, he calls it cessations of the mind. These oscillations need to be ceased. They need to, the oscillations of the mind, there needs to be a cessation to the oscillations to bring ease and constancy to ourselves, to the self. So we're not oscillating all the time. We're going to bring ease and constancy. So again, ease to the body, consistency to the mind. So we're not fluctuating, because that fluctuation, like you said, brings us out of stillness, silence, spaciousness.
Creating
Evenness, balance, right? Which is the whole part of being whole or healthy, homeostasis, all this consciousness that we talk about in the program. So this is the way. It's not about being good people or bad people. It's not about being right people or wrong people. We've got lots of good politicians, lots of bad politicians, lots of good cops, lots of bad cops, lots of good doctors, lots of bad doctors. But we need our balanced people. But we need our balanced things. And that's the real thing, because when people are like, I'm too old for yoga. I'm not a good person. I can't do yoga. I'm a great person. I don't need yoga. I don't have any pain in my body. It's like all these people are just not realizing that they're not balanced. There will come a day that they will go out of balance. And this practice can be preemptive rather than prescriptive.
Absolutely. And actually, even traditional Chinese medicine, everything that I do is preventative medicine.
That's right.
And the irony is that more often than not, like 95%, even more of the people that come to me as a last resort.
That's right.
They've tried everything. They've done 10 surgeries. They've tried, let's give acupuncture a try. And then all of a sudden they're amazed. They're like, wow, I should have done this. It's like,
yes.
Okay. And often it's because of where I am. I'm in Alabama. That's right. People aren't exposed to Eastern medicine there. Right. It's the last resort.
Yeah.
and more often than not, they're just amazed.
I heard the same thing with I read the story when I was doing my own studies in martial arts that, a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, you would only come see you when you were well.
Yes.
It would, like, again, if you were unwell, there was almost like a pushback of that person being a real practitioner.
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't be getting unwell if the doctor is doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? So it's counterintuitive to our Western approach. We only go see the doctor when we're sick.
It's completely counterintuitive.
It is.
I feel like this is a story that you
I
shared with me
think
before about the brothers. It's like, oh, you know my brother. Oh, he healed so and so when he was on his deathbed, and he's very famous. And he says, oh no, I have a brother who's even better practitioner, but he's never healed anyone that was dying. So, well, that's what made him a better practitioner, because all his patients are alive and well. They're doing great. So
that's beautiful.
It's fascinating.
I hope you're enjoying all these stories. More to come between me and Constantine. We're going to be tuning in about once a week with each other for different themes, from karma to dharma to practice to experience, plant medicine to travel, just our own personal journeys. We're both coming into age right now where we have enough life experience to, have a meaningful conversation that I think will be enriching to others, because so much of our story, I was saying to, for him to come down, he came down to Toronto to do this, to be here with all of you. And one of the things that we were talking about is that if I had a fear around things, I fear my own experience of expression, because I've done so much at such young ages. And, to speak all that almost sounds pedantic or hierarchical, or it seems like I've done all this and other people haven't. And I've always been very mindful of that energy. And, I just don't want to have false humility. Like, I have done these things, I have seen these things as he has. And when we get together, we express ourselves of experience openly. But now we both agree that it's time to start expressing our experiences openly with the world, understanding that, we bow, we wash the feet of our people, of our clients, of our students. We're not here to say you have to live our life path.
Or to compare.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
It was our privilege, it was our dharma, it was our karma, it was also our consequences when we weren't, respecting it. And so, we're going to share all these, wins and losses, and how we seek balance and how we still seek balance, seeker into sought. So,
so let's move forward.
Yeah, and let's keep remembering that, again, it's a journey, not a destination.
That's right. And the healing is actually a way of life.
Yes.
Right. And achieving balance is a way of life. Thank you.
Beautiful. So I'm going to go into deer pose. This is, as everyone knows, my students all know, this is Alex's favorite posture. I love this pose.
Yes. So here the main, so here there's stress along the side of the rib cage, which is activating the seam of the body. Like we said earlier, it's the gallbladder meridian. Also, there's sensations in the inner groin, which, like we said earlier, the liver meridian wraps around the groin, and the kidney is also associated with the sex organs. So we're activating liver, kidney, and gallbladder mainly. And if the thigh is stressed, especially on the inner aspect of the thigh, this would be related to the spleen meridian and the stomach, which are a pair as well. Yes, so this is a beautiful pose. It's activating a whole lot.
It's a favorite.
Yeah. This especially with knowing your past, I understand why this is one of your favorite poses, because you used to have quite a bit of liver, gallbladder, chi stagnation here in the rib cage, which is where it tends to settle.
Right.
Yeah, and you do a really good job of maintaining evenness.
Yes. I do this posture a lot. Yes. Yeah, and again, a lot of my students as well. We're here in Toronto. This is lots of active liver, stomach stagnation,
and it's really hard to not. Kind of, in the city, especially in Toronto, such a multicultural place.
Totally.
It's. I've only been here less than a week.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm already getting
the buzz.
A bit impatient, a bit irritable. Just stuck in traffic. It's just absolutely wild.
Physically, emotionally, mentally.
Yes.
That's why I've evolved to the part where you can see on my window. I watch it, and I see what happens externally. At certain points of the day, I have to check in with myself and be like, ooh, maybe there's a traffic jam happening within me at this time.
That's beautiful.
You know what
Yes,
I'm saying? That the external is the internal.
That's precisely
I need to not go out right now.
right. And kind of how we were speaking earlier, like understanding the outside is the inside is the outside.
Yes.
Right. Like
Yes.
understanding the nature of the outside so that reflects on the inside. So here we have the
Dragon pose.
Dragon pose.
There's lots of ways you can wing it. You can, there's
Mhm,
also,
mhm.
and you can come down further.
So here the targeted areas, the quadriceps, hip flexors, back of the leg, which would have the tension. Yes, flexion, but also external rotation and abduction, some options. So here, the main meridians that are targeted is the stomach and spleen, on the thighs, also the liver, kidney, as well as the back, urinary bladder. And yeah, so we're looking at also the gallbladder meridian is stimulated. So again, a lot of the same meridians are being activated through these postures. And this is to say that each meridian has a multitude of different points, and each point has a different function. So it might seem like we're over and over where we're stimulating the same meridians, but in fact, we're stimulating different points on each meridian.
That's
as
right.
well, which have very many different layers and significance. So yeah, going through in the twisted dragon, we would see mainly would be gallbladder meridian activation here. And otherwise, the mainly would be spleen, stomach, liver, and kidney, and urinary bladder.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
So next is the frog.
Whoosh, love the frog. This is students' least and most favorite. Depends on how long they've been practicing
this
for.
This is a beautiful pose that I too have grown to love, and part of it is because it's very difficult. I like a good challenge, and here we're looking at the inner groin, abductors and tension in the hip sockets. So something about that. There's a lot of tension here that's related to emotions. So if you have strong emotions, like you'll see people that are very tense will have a difficult time with this, or if having people that have a difficulty expressing their emotions will have an extremely difficult time doing this posture in this position. So mainly, I mean, we're right here in the groin area. We have spleen, liver, kidney. We're also activating, opening up the arms here. We're activating the small intestine on the back aspect. We're activating the heart in the armpit area. We're activating the lung on the inner aspect here up to the shoulder. This is a chest opener. It's opening. This is just a very open space, and I'm sure you're feeling it right now. A lot of times I find students that go into this position, there might be some tears flowing for one reason or another. This is just opening up of the emotions. And what I want to go into here is understanding that emotions have the capacity to affect our physical body. And this is a known fact in the TCM community that, holding on to an emotion, it is going to transform into a physical problem. So the distinction here is understanding that we have many bodies. We have the source, we have a spiritual body, we have a mental body, we have an emotional body, and some people might even add an intuitive body to that. And then finally, the final frontier is the physical body. That is to say, if we do not deal with what's coming through from the infinite aspects of our being, the spirit, then if we can't deal with it in the mental body, you can't think your way through it. If you can't deal with it through the emotional body, you can't cry your way through it. Then eventually the final frontier is going to manifest in the physical body. So this is why it's so important to be in touch with your emotions. It is not, Western society says it's weak to be an emotional man. It's actually the contrary. It takes a lot of confidence and takes a lot of strength to acknowledge the truth of what you're feeling and to allow yourself to surrender to it and to express it. So
Beautiful.
yeah, frog pose. Beautiful, beautiful. One of my favorites.
Love the frog.
Yeah.
Love the frog.
Oh yeah. So I failed to mention this actually stimulates the large and small intestine as well.
Awesome.
Both. Yeah. Okay. And one of your favorites?
Happy baby.
Happy baby.
Happy time. We stop.
Again, this is really targeting these areas around the groin, really allowing oneself to access joy. Why? We are also stretching the opening of the heart here. And so that is the emotion that is joy. It's connected to joy. That's why we call it happy baby, because we allow ourselves to express these pent up emotions. Specifically, the back as well as being activated. So that's the urinary bladder. So that's the entire spine. So that's going to activate every single organ in the body, the organ specifically, not necessarily the meridian. So sensation along the inner groin, the adductors, are stimulating the liver and kidney meridians, which the emotions associated would be fear and anger. Yeah, so this is a great way if you're feeling really serious, which a lot of people in today's society, if you have this seriousness, this is a great way to relieve that energy. If you're angry, if you're afraid, like just go into your happy baby and just rock with it as well. Move with it. Just allow the body to engage itself, and in a sense, trusting in the wisdom of the body. You're going to hear me say this many times, that the body has its own innate wisdom, and that it's so important, incredibly important, to surrender and allow the body's wisdom to teach the mind, and not necessarily the other way around. Yeah, not force with the mind, just surrender to the body's wisdom. Beautiful. So next is the reclining twists.
Good. So maybe,
Yes.
So we've been talking again a lot about the organs. So maybe just a quick, just a recap once again. So the heart is the emperor.
Yes.
Tells the body what to do.
Dictating the rest of the organs.
Liver is the governor.
Liver is actually the general. Yeah. So the liver's job, in fact, is to keep the chi and the blood flowing smoothly.
Yep.
So when things aren't flowing smoothly in the kingdom, the general's pissed.
Right.
So that's why anger, irritability, impatience ensues.
Okay. And then we go from the liver to the stomach.
Yeah. So the stomach and spleen are actually ruling anxiety and pensiveness, overthinking.
Is that why we overeat?
Yeah. So this is really bringing into light the connection between the gut and the mind. And so depending on how your gut bacteria, the biome is doing, the health of it, your thoughts will actually follow. Like, for example, people that eat a lot of sugar are feeding a consciousness in their gut. And in my circles, we call this a parasitic consciousness. And what you'll notice if you decide to go on a sugar fast, a complete sugar fast, like no sugar, after a week, you're going to notice the cravings getting stronger. And then after 2 weeks, they're going to get even stronger. Why? It is because the consciousness, this bacteria that you're feeding the sugar with, is dying. Is dying. So then you'll notice after a little bit over 2 weeks, the cravings will go higher and higher and higher. And then one day you wake up, they're gone. Well, that means the bacteria that you were feeding the sugar is dead.
Wow.
Yes. So it really brings to light that you're not just thinking with your mind. And we know this, science confirms this already. We knew this already, but science confirms this today, that we are thinking with your entire body. Yeah. So when you see a person that's overthinking, it's affecting their sleep. Their mind is on at night. They can't turn their mind off. It's not actually their mind. It's actually the spleen and stomach.
Right. The third. They call it the third mind now.
The
enteric system.
That's right.
And they say that 95% of all your serotonin comes from your gut.
It does.
The stuff that regulates mood, sexuality, all this stuff. It's all coming from the gut.
So getting your probiotics.
Yeah.
Feeding the spleen. And this is what's interesting in TCM. Each organ also has a flavor associated with it. So when I see my clients, see my patients, that I ask them, do you have any cravings? And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, I'm craving sweet. It's like, okay, you're craving sweet. Are you sweet is actually good for the spleen. Too much sweet damages the spleen. Similarly, spice is if somebody's craving spice, this means that their heart is related to the heart. Spice, it kind of makes sense. Fire, spice. A little spice, great for the heart, thins the blood, allows the blood to free flow better, more energy. Too much spice damages the heart.
Right.
You know, sour is the liver. People that crave sour a lot of the time, lemon all the time, you know, maybe their liver needs a little help. Too much damages it.
Right.
Right. And so that's because each flavor has a different energy. Like sour is astringent. So if you take, for example, a little bit of spice with sour, that's actually going to lock in the spice.
Mm.
If you have a little bit of heat or you're prone towards inflammation, then it's a really terrible combination.
Right.
You know, so what might work for you or for someone else is that has a lot of cold in their body, say adding a little bit of cayenne in your lemon water, that might be great for someone living in Canada that has a lot of cold. But for me down in Alabama, it's like the worst thing that I could do. It'll create terrible amounts of inflammation that could lead to a number of different issues like headaches and inflammation in the skin and all sorts of things.
Right.
Yeah. So we could go deeper.
So I think what we'll do is, I think in the description or in the comments below, we'll just put like heart and maybe a word, liver and a word. So as you're using these terms, because I know in the book they don't really explain like what this thing does. So if someone is like, oh, you know, the heart is, you know, in charge of this, and I'm now getting attracted. I should do anahatasana, more heart openers to balance that energy.
Absolutely. So this is basically creating a rough guide.
Yes.
You know,
an introduction, and then that way, if they want to follow up with you and they can have a real conversation, you can do an intake with them and give them a more detailed report.
Something that I do.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Well, that's the goal here. That's where it's like we want to pass that fourth wall, because again, it's wonderful to offer it online. But again, we're not characters, we're not performers, we're real people, we're real practitioners, and we're here to help. So again, it's not always easy to access me. I work at a private club, so unfortunately it's not open to the public. So again, doing this channel is my way of overcoming that detriment, that burden, that inaccessibility. And that's why I do the things like yoga in the park, and I'm doing that Warrior Wednesdays, again, just allowing myself to be accessible. But you know, it's an expensive city, one has to work. It's unfortunate that the smaller yoga studios that we're working at have closed down. So again, this was really a karma-based offering that this was going to be offered. And then as it comes down to Costa's end, he's not here, you know. Constantine is not here. He's in Alabama. So
I was here for 5 years.
I'm studying.
Now it's
And I want to bring his access, because I've tried a few other modalities and things. And again, for me, this, it's always by, word of mouth recommendation. For me, he has done miracle work for me. So I want to share that with my students and my practitioners. And so everyone on the channel who's going to be on the channel is going to be someone that, is handpicked, who has been, deeply practiced and explored with by me, and just someone I really want to open up and advocate about, because again, this is not a sponsorship, this is a friendship, and what you're receiving is friendship. And friendship for me is the best ship that ever sailed, because the root of the word friendship means loving one. So people of love, and that for me is the highest frequency. That's what I evoke. That's my intention when it comes to ceremony practices and workshops. So love is at the heart of it. So
what we're aiming here to do is create a system where people can actually access healing for themselves.
That's right.
By their own choice.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And giving them a portal, because again, with the problem with the internet is you Google search something, you get and then it's usually the people who have the money who are at the top. So this is a way of just accessing, you like Constantine, you can access Alex. If you like Alex, you're going to access Constantine.
Absolutely.
So we're going to keep working, and our network's going to grow as I keep bringing on people onto sort of the channel. And so let's go to reclining twist. And like I said, we'll do the little write-up of like large intestine, but if he's saying it, maybe he can just do a quick little large intestine means this. Yes. And then that will help you, because it can be a lot of information. I just want to make sure everyone gets the best.
And that's why I don't want to go too in depth.
Exactly.
Because what tends to happen is the information gets a little muddled. You're like, okay, you're throwing all this information at me. I don't know what's what anymore. So I want to keep it as simple as possible. And it's actually one of the hardest things.
Yeah, it's an overview. Yeah. It's an overview.
Yes. So again, here what we're doing is sensation along the side of the rib cage. Again, the rib cage is where a lot of the liver gallbladder chi get settled. Okay, and this is the seam of the body. I'm just going to keep repeating these themes. This is the gallbladder. So imagine sciatic pain, right? Sciatic pain. That's gallbladder. Okay, and so this is related to confidence, to stress, to decisiveness. If you're feeling indecisive, this would be a great pose to get into. If you're feeling some chi stagnation in the rib side, this would be a great position for you. Yes. And also, again, we're opening up the arm, opening up the chest. Here we're activating the heart here. Also the lung 1 right here. And this is great for grief. This is great for accessing your joy, right? So the inner aspect here, the heart. So that has to do with sleep. Like I actually notice a lot of times when I don't sleep very well, I will literally have pain right on the inner aspect of the wrist here, which is heart 7. A very powerful point to activate the Shen, which is the spirit. And again, we are connecting to the small intestine, large intestine meridians, using the arms overhead. Also the lung and the heart. So yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful position.
Fan favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
People love twists, especially like now.
So next is the
Saddle. Red S, we're getting there. Thank you, Bernie, for alphabetizing all these functions. We're almost there.
Okay, so there's a lot to this position here. Okay.
You want me to get on a bolster?
No, you're totally good. So mainly, I'm sure you're feeling some tension right here in the legs, right? So this is activating the spleen and stomach meridians, as well as the most yin, which is the ren. The ren that runs down the middle of the stomach, the chest here. So this is activating a lot of the yin organs. Mainly, like people may be familiar with the lower dantian. This is where a lot of the energy settles. It's a very important point in medical qigong as well. And so it's connected to the kidneys, the bladder, the sex organs, as well as the primordial qi called jing qi that we mentioned previously. In addition to that, we are activating the heart and lung, again, opening up the chest, opening up the arms, and as well as the small intestine meridian on the back aspect of the shoulder here. So, sensation along the top of the thighs, through the belly. It will stimulate stomach and spleen meridians, as well as the Ren channel. Sensation along the spine, especially in the lower back, will stimulate the kidney, but not through the meridian system, but through the urinary bladder, which is the actual nerve ending of the organ itself. Okay. Yes, as well as the heart and lung meridians, like I said already. So 1 to 5 minutes. It takes, I would say, 3 minutes.
3 minutes, yeah,
3
for
minutes.
the myofascia to relax.
That's right.
I never
right.
teach anything under 3
Okay,
minutes.
it says 1 to 5, but I think 3 to 5 would be best.
3 to 5 is basically just let's get started.
Mm-hmm.
I consistently teach 7-minute holds.
Mm-hmm.
That's my magic number. 7 minutes and then 3 minutes to explore their own inner guru, their own inner guide. 10 minutes in total. That puts us at about, 5 different movements. If I have a right and left, sometimes I have to do a 5-minute, but I prefer the longer holds.
Yes.
Yeah, just gets into more of it.
And
Permanent.
And honestly,
change.
I'm not trying to boost your ego or anything, but I've done a lot of yin classes, and of course the teacher training with you, and I have never gone deeper than with you.
Thank you,
I think it is because you hold these positions for long enough. I find that the first at least 3 minutes, it's challenging. It's challenging. I'm like, oh, this is hurting. Why am I doing this? Right? My mind is fighting me. Right? But once I get through that threshold, like when I said in the beginning, the body has a feedback loop system.
Absolutely.
So that is where, the magic happens, breathing into the pain, breathing into that tension
Absolutely.
to actually create that dopamine, create that, interrupt that conversation between the sympathetic and the central nervous system.
Yes.
And bring that sensation that's at first is pain, turn it into something that feels really good.
Yes.
And the more we do this, the more we can access this good feeling.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I must say,
and it's a settling. It's a settling into it. I really do
100%.
feel that there is pain in the physical, there is trauma in the emotional, and there is suffering in the mental. In order to access it, you have to go there. And you have to go there in a place that's comfortable. Like, for example, pass me the bolster.
Yes.
As I teach my yogis, like, again, you don't have to do what I did. Again, that's where I say that's the 12 years of yin.
There's variation.
Right, lots of like, again, that's why I said, do you want me to pull out a bolster? This is great. It's like lying on a beach for right? So if I'm going to do a 20-minute saddle, I don't know if I'm going to do it on the ground without a bolster. I think I'll start here, give 7 minutes to 10 minutes here, and then I'll let this go because now I'm ready to let it go because now the tissue has softened. Right.
And but also, like, to go back into what you said, in order to heal the pain, the healing of the pain is in the pain.
That's right.
Right. Like I tell all my clients, you have to feel it if you want to heal it. You got to feel it to heal it.
That's it, baby.
And that is creating awareness. So the key here is awareness.
That's right.
Right. And consciousness.
And the yogis and all the Taoist masters would all say the same thing. Awareness is everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the high level.
If you want to go even deeper, my personal belief is that the field itself is consciousness.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have called it by many names. But we have the ability to connect to the field. So here we have the shoelace.
Absolutely. From the physical to the Atma, to the Brahma, to the ultimate, to the Tao.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful point, beautiful position to actually activate nearly all the meridians on the legs. Specifically, sensation along the outside of the hips, we call it the seam, is the gallbladder meridian. Sensation on the inner knees, inner thighs, is liver and kidney meridians. We're also the back of the legs. We're activating the urinary bladder meridians. And if you engage in the variations, the upper body stresses through the arms and shoulders will also activate, again, the lung and heart meridians. Yeah. So these are great for activating joy and getting rid of grief. This is great for settling any sense of irritability, settling any sense of anger and fear.
It's a fan favorite.
Yeah, this one's
for those who like to adduct. For those who don't, and they're all about abduction away from the center line, they like shoelace is extremely challenging, which is why we do it on the ground.
And
right?
snail.
Snail.
Okay. Snail is next, and this is actually one that I found myself doing last night quite a bit because I had a little bit of tension in my lower back.
Absolutely.
So what we're doing here is we're opening this section, the lower aspect of the curve of the spine. It's sometimes, like, I was walking a lot yesterday through the city. I had a date night, went to the aquarium. That was excellent. But I had some tension in my lower back when I got home. And I found myself naturally inclined to want to do this position. I did it with the legs stretched out, personally. Yes, as the illustration is showing here. And you can do it supported with the arms. Perfect. And this will really take off the tension in the lower back. Always remember, gravity is always pulling us down. And so this is decompressing the lower aspect of the lumbar spine. And I felt a great sense of relief only a few minutes in this position last night. Yeah, after
the longer you spend with it, the more active the parasympathetic comes because it's really activating the parasympathetic nerves at the cervical and at the pelvic floor.
Yes, so that's
why this one's really good for bedtime.
Cranial sacral.
Yeah, cranial sacral
Connection.
connection.
And that is because the parasympathetic nervous system, the ganglia, emerge at the cranium and at the sacrum.
That's right.
Yes, and the sympathetic is throughout the whole spine, the whole body. So Next, one of your
Sphinx and
favorites.
Seal.
Yeah.
So many favorites.
They're all your favorites.
They're all favorites.
Yes, yes. So sensation along the spine and the lower back stimulate, again, the bladder, and in the lower back, the kidney meridians. But it's, again, not exactly the kidney meridians, but this lumbar section where the nerve endings of the kidney emerge. Sensation along the front of the body stimulate the stomach and spleen meridians. So that would be mostly on the lower aspect of the abdomen and the front and inner aspect of the thighs and legs. And there is a physical compression of the kidney organ as well. Yeah, the actual organ, not necessarily the energetic meridian. So again, really amazing for decompressing the lower spine. This is a great progression. Like, I believe that there's a reason. You could tell me more about this, but I'm sure there's a reason as to the order of these postures. Like yoga, like TCM, is an ancient technology, right? And I think that there is a whole lot of overlap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say that, one of the ways of preserving the knowledge was in the overlapping.
Yes.
You had seekers seeking out new frontiers. You had, Chinese mixing with Indian, ancient cultures, ancient Chinese, ancient Aryans, whatever you want to call it, but it's just been muddled.
And as we know, I found out recently that
it is a true borderline.
Like all these Shaolin practices actually came from enlightened gurus that came from India.
Yeah.
I was just amazed at that. And it makes perfect sense why there's
the migration of consciousness, right? And again, maybe the weather, maybe the epicenters just happened to be in the forest dwelling or in the Himalayas. It's just like, where is the consciousness coming from? But at the end of the day, I think there was a Silk Road. I think that Silk Road was where the tea houses were of the mystics, and the consciousness just kept moving to the west until we have Christ consciousness.
This is a fun segue with regard to the Silk Road. Actually, one of my teachers taught me this. He said that, so all of TCM, or the majority, I should say, of TCM comes from the Huangdi Jing, which is a book. It's the Yellow Emperor's Classic. Okay, so the Yellow Emperor's Classic is basically a conversation between the Yellow Emperor and a philosopher named Qi Bo.
So we're very much enacting that right now.
Yes, we are. And what's really fascinating about this conversation is that it's a conversation between the East and the West.
Right.
Okay. So we have the wisdom of the Yellow Emperor in the East, and the Silk Road, actually, just this is what you reminded me of this, is actually the connection to the West, which was the ancient Greeks.
That's right.
So a lot of the ancient Greek knowledge, healing medical knowledge, has been lost because of mainly Christianity came through and burned everything. But we don't want to blame anybody.
It's all meant to be. The forest needs the bird to be brought back up.
Yes, precisely. But that is to say that a lot of the ancient Greek knowledge, what we do have, the remnants of, does have an overlap with the ancient Chinese knowledge. And so when we come into contact with this, we realize that actually the Huangdi Jing is a historical document. Talking about this conversation that happened over the Silk Road.
Absolutely.
Between the ancient Greece and ancient China. Yeah. Like, how beautiful.
Yeah. And it's almost arrogated to think that, Alexander was the first one to get there. He would, summoned to get there. There was obviously mystics and nomads and, 100%. People who were traveling that path towards the east, following the sun. Absolutely. And I think that's where, for me, the most empirical evidence I have of this, and my premise is that, Aristotle, when, Alexander the Great's teacher, he said, I'm going on this adventure, this big conquest. What would you like? I'll give you anything. You've given me so much. He goes, bring me a sadhu from India. There's another story that I'll tell another day about that one. But, that's what he wanted. He wanted the consciousness of the sadhu, because that consciousness is not a Western consciousness. That is an Eastern consciousness that has been endowed in the East for a very, very, very long time. It has evolved through the Buddha. The Buddha took that, that mystical aperture and illuminated it from the aesthetics. So it's very, very beautiful. So and now we're here in a modern time. Modern time means modern language. So again, I always say, we speak simply because simply is complicated understood. We could make this a whole lot more complicated.
We don't want
But
to.
yeah,
That's not the
why
point.
do that?
We want to be accessible to everyone.
Can't access the consciousness, which is the healing. So we're here to help that. So this is square pose.
Yes. So next is the square pose. Primary targeted areas is the hips, flexion, and external rotation. Secondary is when folding forward, as you just were. The whole spine is in flexion. Okay. So meridians affected. Sensations along the outside of the hips may stimulate the gallbladder meridian, like folding the leg exactly like you have. This is very powerful for the gallbladder meridian. Sensation to the inner knees, thighs, and groin. Like we said earlier, the groin is very much related to the liver and kidney meridians. So this would be great, for example, for women that are experiencing some PMS symptoms, because this is very much related, like the liver plays such a big part in that cycle, and the kidney meridian is very much related to the sex organs. And last but not least, sensation along the back of the spine, opening up the spine, again, opening up the bladder meridian, which affects every single organ in the body. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Okay. One of my favorites,
Squat.
the squat.
One of the greatest exercises you could do for your lower body.
Mm-hmm. And to go a little bit into the squat, I mean, this position, think about our evolution. Before everyone had chairs and cars and all these things, like this is how people kneeled next to the fire, right? Making food, kneeling next to the river, drinking water. So this is actually an extremely potent and powerful position. Defecating, giving birth.
Yeah, giving birth.
Right? Like a million different ways to look at this position. But yeah, from a TCM perspective, we're looking at, again, stimulating the inner groin area, which is, again, related to the liver and kidney meridians. Sensation along the thighs and lower belly, stimulate the spleen and stomach meridians. This is a very grounding position. So if we're feeling in our heads, if we're feeling caught up in our thoughts, right? Like spleen, overthinking, pensiveness, activate. This is grounding that energy. Kidney is a very yin organ. It's one of the most yin organs. So yeah. If you feel, it says here, if you feel this around your ankles, you may stimulate the stomach, spleen, gallbladder, and urinary bladder meridians. So this is an all-around activating position. I find it quite difficult for people that are extremely neural, that spend a lot of time on the computer, that don't engage with the earth, that don't engage in grounding practices. But it is one of the most grounding practices. I feel like this is just sitting in this position for long periods of time can really create that connection to Mother Earth.
It healed so much of my body.
Yes.
Just talk about that one.
Me too. I've had beautiful experiences just sitting in this position, camping, making a fire. Yes, absolutely. So here we have the straddle or dragonfly. Yes. So this targeted areas are the hips, flexion, external rotation, abduction. Secondary is the whole spine, hamstrings, tension, and the inner knees. So again, like if we're going into the inner knees, we are going to be looking at the spleen meridian. Yes, we are going to be looking at the liver and kidney meridian because we're stretching out the groin area. We have sensations along the spine and the back of the legs are stimulating the bladder meridian. So this would help with, like, say, urinary incontinence. This would also help with the prostate. For example, for men, like 1 in 3 men have an enlarged prostate.
Opening up the pelvic floor.
Opening up the pelvic floor, absolutely. And then sensations on through the rib cage. When you add a twist, may stimulate the gallbladder meridian. Exactly. So it's so important to get that straight back first and then to really twist into it. Yeah, for the gallbladder to be activated.
Perfection.
Next,
Swan.
Swan.
Now
and
this
sleeping
is
swan.
one of the top 3 yoga postures for me. Again, this healed my sciatica. Love.
Mhm.
We call this pigeon as well.
Yes,
posture.
yes. This is. I've spent countless hours.
I was just
feels
gonna say. So for people want to know how you get into lotus, this posture, this is the way.
Yes, tight hips, tight legs. This is really good. So this one posture can stimulate all 6 lower body meridians, all of them. So sensations along the top of the back may indicate that the spleen and stomach meridians are being stimulated. Sensations in the inner groin, again, liver and kidney meridians are being activated. And sensations on the spine activate the bladder meridian. And if you feel especially tension in the lower back in this lumbar area, that is very positive for the kidney, which people usually what we see is that elderly folks have lower back pain, have knee pain. This is very much related to the kidneys. The kidneys are actually located right here in this area on the back, and they don't have a way to replenish themselves. So kidney essence, just to go into that just real quick, kidney essence is the Jing Qi, like I talked about earlier. You only have a certain amount of that. You're born with it, and you can't make more, according to TCM perspective. You only have a certain amount. So it's really important to preserve your kidney essence, which will actually preserve your life and create longevity. As we get older, like I said, you see old people have problems with lower back pain, knee pain, also whitening of the hair. Wisdom comes with that. But there's these exit points of the Jing Qi. Primarily for men, it would be ejaculation. And this is a whole topic of conversation that I'd love to get into later at a later time with you, Alex. But the importance of withholding, the importance of brahmacharya is what you would call it. This is one of the major ways a man can preserve his kidney essence. In the TCM perspective, I don't know if I'll get this right, but they say something like it takes 1,000 drops of energy of blood to make 1 drop of kidney essence, which is semen, essentially. So that is the shit to say that it takes quite a bit of energy to even make 1 drop of blood. And we can get into the actions of that. It's mainly the spleen makes blood for the body. The lungs make a little bit of that blood as well as the liver stores that and cleans that blood. So just the body's action of making blood takes quite a bit of energy, So that is a combination of food, gu qi, and then air. We have that away qi, so that's the mixture of the 2 different kinds of qi to make a little bit of blood. And they say that 1 drop of essence of kidney Jing Qi is equal to 1,000 drops of blood. So that just gives you an idea of how valuable it is. And then you see young people just spreading their essence left and right, like it's not valuable, and it's just a tragedy. So yes, here in this position, we are stimulating all 6 lower body meridians. So if you were to just do 1 or 2 or 3 positions, I really would encourage people to enter into this position, do some deep, slow breathing, and really connect to this posture.
Ushta. Toe squat.
Yes. So this is interesting. This is kind of how in martial arts, like a lot of my teachers would sit in Japanese teachers. And this is actually an amazing position for healing bursitis. Yeah. So this is a really good
Plantar
position.
fasciitis.
Plantar fasciitis. Yeah, anything related to the heels. So as you might imagine, it's really good for the kidneys. Yeah. Meridians affected. It says all the meridians of the lower body may be stimulated due to the stress in the toes. Why? As we go closer to the extremities, there's more nerve endings. So the more sensation, the more awareness. The more awareness, the more consciousness, right? Like we have to feel it to heal it. And for someone that hasn't practiced this position, it might be quite painful, quite difficult, and which is amazing because obviously both of us have done this countless times, so it actually feels quite comfortable.
Feels great.
To sit in this position. But for someone who hasn't practiced, I'm always amazed. Yeah, like I have quite a few friends that are extremely virile and powerful individuals. They can't even get close to this position. So yeah, it brings back this idea of what does it mean to be strong?
That's right.
Right? Does it mean to be rigid, or does it mean to actually be able to bend?
I think it's the balance between, strength and stretching. So it's the balance between, power and flexibility, right? So it's this energy that in imbalance makes the ultimate, you look at a sapling, it's almost impossible to break.
Yes.
It's not very strong. You can't support yourself on it. And then you look at the tree and it have this branch, but it can be very, dull, brittle, it can break. So this consciousness of having both.
Or you look at how bamboo bends in the wind.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
And yeah, like in China, they use bamboo for so many different things, for ladders, for scaffolding.
Yep.
Right? For thousands of years.
Flexible and strong all at the same time.
So this is one of my favorite positions.
Shavasana.
Yes, guy.
I love Shavasana.
Shavasana. Yeah, so this is really, really important to be able to relax. And there's so much to be said about this position. One of my teachers would call it corpse pose. I don't know if that's something
That's
similar.
what it translates to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
literally translates.
Oh,
as
it does.
corpse pose,
Okay. So I didn't realize that.
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
We get to share these yin sights with each other.
So yeah, I had a teacher that taught me an art called Yang Chen. And Yang Chen is a lot about visualization, about meditation. It's about transmuting one energy into another. It's about, say I'm cold, I visualize myself by the beach in the sun and ultimately create that heat in my body just through the power of my awareness and my consciousness. So he said, if you ever get overwhelmed, if you ever get, something is too much, if you're in your breath work and you're doing deep inner work and you get overwhelmed, corpse pose. Imagine that there's nobody home. You're just laying there, surrendering the body back to Mother Earth from which it came. Yes, if you want to add anything.
It's beautiful. Yeah, no, it's just the full gravitational pull. And I really find the more time one spends in this posture, the more it helps align your standing posture.
Yes.
Because again, the feet can start to relax outward and everything starts to ground. But when you stand up, you have that structural alignment. Like again, I can feel a little bit more in my extenders than my flexors. And, that's just something, I'm currently working on because I spent a lot of time in extension in the last year. And now it's time to, strengthen into more flexion. But I find like I diagnose myself in the Shavasana. The Shavasana shows me what's going on, where the aches and pains are. The more time I spend with it and the more relaxed I am, I've gotten to the point where I can sleep at night without even twisting and turning. If I can hold the meditation, this is called the yoga nidra or the yoga sleep, where you can actually access the unconscious, the delta state with awareness, and your body will just remain where it is because it's still holding the posture, which is to say you're being held by the posture. So the corpse pose leads you to everlasting life.
Beautiful.
That's the idea. More time we spend dying.
How paradoxical.
That's exactly it. We must go down to jump up really high.
That's very interesting.
The higher we get put on that pedestal, the bigger the fall's going to be.
That's why reaching, is just learning how to reach properly.
That's right.
Yeah. Proper awareness.
Beautiful.
Yes.
All right. Did we do it?
That's that. Yeah.
We did it. Yes. Thank you, everyone. So I think Costa and I have discussed just ending it with a little sound healing for you. We did it all under 2 hours, which is awesome. So just close your eyes. Just feeling the energy within you and around you. All this knowledge of experience that will one day be your own as you walk the path of the yogi and the guru inside, awakening. teacher illuminating for the true teacher, shares what is most beautiful in themselves, leads by example, and holds the space for others. Oh,
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for wanting to share and engage in your own practice. And yes, I'm looking forward to re-engaging in this conversation, this ongoing conversation and exploration. Yes. So I'm really excited once a week. Is it Wednesdays? For us to meet?
Warrior Wednesdays.
We can do it anytime.
We're gonna figure
as long
it
as
out.
we're consistent.
Yeah,
And that we keep it up. And we
that's
keep
our
this
promise to
conversation
everyone.
going. Yes. So keep tuning in. There's a lot more to share. This is only scratching the surface.
Literally.
Quite literally. But I'm really excited. To move forward with this and eventually do some proper retreats where we can allow people to go much deeper through the use of this practice, through the use of acupuncture, herbal medicine, understanding how the inner balance of our being is connected to the outer balance of the seasons and so on. Yes, creating a greater alignment.
Because the earth is here to align us, it's not here to define us. So everything that happens on this planet can be given back to the planet. And that's
Precisely.
liberation and realization. That's what we're here to practice. So thank you, everyone, for showing up today. For those who came live, thank you. And remembering this is all done by your support. So thank you for all your financial, emotional, mental, physical support in any which way, be it your time, be it your energy, be it your currency or your current. We thank you because, again, without you, we would just be doing this without the camera. So it's really nice to be here and clear, and we will receive all the love and support you have in the future, and we will continue to make offerings. Thank you to Constantine. We will continue to post things in the description and in the comments as we look forward to many more conversations to come.
Beautiful.
Blessings, blessings, blessings. Namaste.
Thank you.